Hey guys, are you planning on a trip to Lemkovina but you haven't been there before? Here are a few things to know when visiting. Stay tuned.
It's my Lemko time.
One way to get to Lemkovina is flying into either Rzeszów or Kraków airport and renting a car. Lemkovina is about an hour and a half drive from the nearest autostrada. The autostrada is the closest thing in Poland to an interstate highway in the US. Because of the mountains, there are often twists and turns in the road, so remember, don't speed, especially in places where there's no guide rail. Oftentimes, you'll notice the view and want to take a photo on the side of the road, but if there's no shoulder to pull off onto and you can't see whether there is a car coming or not, I recommend to just keep driving. Don't worry, there are plenty of beautiful views in the region. Now, if you're looking for a place to stay overnight in the region, I recommend two types of places. One is a pensionat, which is essentially like a larger B&B, and the other is called an agroturystyka, which is essentially a building or a small farm that'll rent out rooms to people. And they're usually decently priced. Now, in terms of food, some of the local restaurants in the region, although they have a predominantly Polish menu, they will sometimes have traditional Lemko dishes on their menu. For example, halushka or fuczki. One cool thing about driving through Lemkovina is that you'll notice these bilingual signs in some of the villages. This one, for example, is for the village of Gładyszów. Now, unfortunately, not every Lemko village has these signs because that depends on whether there's enough people in the village that want these signs. But that's also not to say that Lemkos only live in these villages, but in reality, they live in all different villages throughout Lemkovina. When you come to Lemkovina, make sure that you come prepared because the weather can change very quickly. It can be sunny one moment and raining the next. But don't worry, sometimes when the rain comes, it'll leave as quickly as it came in. So typically in a Lemko village, what you'll have is, you'll have a main road through the village going along the bottom of the valley, and you would have houses on both sides of that road. And behind these houses, you would have the slopes that are going up the mountain. And on these slopes, that's where the Lemkos would be doing their farming, whether it be they'd be growing crops or they would having their animals and livestock go up there to graze. Nowadays, though, since the farming industry is not as big as it used to be, you can see that more and more trees are on the mountain tops compared to in the past. Behind me, you'll see a chuzha, which is a traditional Lemko house. Now, the state of these across the region vary. For example, they could either be renovated and people still live in them. They could be used for storage while a new house is built right next to them, or unfortunately for some are left to disrepair. One thing to check out while you drive through the Lemko villages are these historic churches. Now, although some of these churches have been converted into Roman Catholic, the majority of these churches remain Greek Catholic or Orthodox. Now, on some of these churches, you'll have a poster or a piece of paper with a phone number of the caretaker, and with this phone number, you can call the person who takes care of the church, and they'll be able to show you, give you like a tour and show you what the inside looks like. I highly recommend to do that, especially since these churches are usually around 200 to 300 years old. Now, when you're among people and drinking alcohol, in this region, there's a tradition where when people be taking shots of alcohol, there's actually only one shot glass being used. So how this is done is, prior to someone taking a shot, they'll look at someone, they'll make eye contact with the next person, and the other person will acknowledge that they want to take the next shot. So the first person will then take the shot, pour the alcohol in the glass, and pass it on to the next person. And this process will repeat until everyone has taken a shot.
Furthermore, there's, although it's technically not alcohol, there is something that Lemkos like to drink that is called kropka. Now, what is kropka exactly? It's a chemical called diethyl ether, and how they'll drink this is they'll take a drink with something else. So, for example, they'll have a glass of milk or a glass of orange juice, and they'll put a drop of this diethyl ether or kropka, and they'll ingest this. And this kropka is supposed to give them some kind of alternate state. Essentially, when you are feeling buzzed or a little bit drunk, it's supposed to give you that kind of feeling. But the important thing is, with kropka, the gas in your stomach usually expands. So you make sure, if you have it, be careful, and you want to make sure you burp to release this gas. Otherwise, something not so good will happen to your body. In Lemkovina, the cows are known for having a reddish hue to their skin. Now, there was one story where after Akcja Wisła, my family was moved up to northern Poland, and they weren't sure where the Lemkos lived in their region, but one time they were walking in the village and they saw these red cows. That's when they knew there were Lemkos living in the house. Alongside the roads in Lemkovina, you'll notice these crosses. These crosses act as shrines or memorials. Now, sometimes these are in remembrance of certain people, but other times these were put into place by people who want to show their gratitude to God. Now, for example, if there was a Lemko family who emigrated to America, made a better life, became wealthier, and returned back safely, they would put these crosses to show their thanks to God. When driving from place to place in the region, be aware that although on the map the distance might not look like a lot, it actually might take you longer than you think to reach your destination, because here the roads are smaller, you can't be driving as fast, and you're also going to be having to drive around the mountain. And sometimes when you're getting from like one place to another, it actually the quickest route might actually take you through Slovakia. Now, although generally in Slovakia you need a vignette, as long as you stay within the region, in the mountains, you should be okay.